Hello and welcome, day 52 of 100. We're back today looking at Redux. I've heard a lot about this JavaScript library. People have always told me that it's going to come in handy when you work with React. And I can't wait to see what it really brings and how it's going to make things easier for us. There's quite a few things here actually end up covering and going through. Let's have a look at them. So yeah, we got the Redux store. There's Redux actions. There are quite a few things that you can actually end up doing here. Wow. So Redux is a predictable state container for JavaScript apps. It helps you write applications that behave consistently, run in different environments, client, server, and native, and are easy to test. While you can use Redux with any Vue library, it's introduced here before being combined with React. Okay, so this is something that we're going to end up using in React. I can't wait for this. Is it weird that I'm excited for this? I really am. And hello to everyone that's joining us, by the way. Really good to have you guys here. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. If there's anything you want to share that will help out, I would really love and appreciate that. But otherwise, let us begin. Go to the first lesson. So create a Redux store. Redux is a state management framework that can be used with a number of different web technologies, including React. In React, there is a single state object that's responsible for the entire state of your application. This means if you had a React app with 10 components and each component had its own local state, the entire state of your app would be defined by a single state object housed in the Redux store. This is the first important principle to understand when learning Redux. The Redux store is the single source of truth when it comes to application state. This also means that at any time any piece of your app wants to update state, it must do so through the Redux store. The unidirectional data flow makes it easier to track state management in your app. The Redux store is an object which holds and manages application state. There is a method called createStore on the Redux object, which you use to create the Redux store. This method takes a reducer function as a required argument. The reducer function is covered in a later challenge, and is already defined for you in the code editor. It simply takes state as an argument and returns state. Declare a store variable and assign it to the createStore method, passing in the reducer as an argument. Okay, so we need to declare a store variable. So let's store. Estes Dennis, hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. You been good? What's new with you? So let store equal to create. Do we have to call create store or redux.create store? Because they said there's a method called create store on the Redux object, so I'm assuming we have to call the Redux object dot create store, and then passing in the reducer as an argument. So reducer. Okay, now that we have that, the code in the editor uses ES6 default argument syntax to initialize the state to hold a value of 5. If you're not familiar with default arguments, you can refer to, yeah, we are. Is that all? Is something supposed to happen? One of the challenges is that you need to pass is the Redux store exists. It's like those memes. Redux exists. It's like, what? Literally no one. Redux exists. And then just like the Pikachu surprised face. It's like a meme. We're memeing already. Oh, there we are. I'm good? You good? That's awesome. You're busy with uni and stuff. Okay. How's that going? What are you doing at uni currently? So the Redux store object provides several methods that allow you to interact with it. For example, you can retrieve the current state held in the Redux store object with the getState method. The code from the previous challenge is rewritten more concisely in the code editor. Use store.getState to retrieve the state from the store, and assign this to a new variable current state. So let current state equal to store.getState. Oh, because it's a Redux component, because store, it created an object, so then we could just do store.getState. But why are you doing it that way? It's just so weird. State is 5, and therefore it returns state, and then state is 5, but so simplified. Anyway, store.getState, and assign this. Okay, that's all. Well, programming. Okay. Do they have a specific language, or is it just like they run you through different languages? And how far in are you? It's not CS, is it? Redux and defining a Redux action. Since Redux is a state management framework, updating state is one of its core tasks. In Redux, all state updates are triggered by dispatching actions. An action is simply a JavaScript object that contains information about an action event that has occurred. The Redux store receives these action objects, then updates its state accordingly. Sometimes a Redux action also carries some data. For example, the action carries a username after a user logs in. While the data is optional, actions must carry a type property that specifies the type of action that occurred. Think of Redux actions as messengers that deliver information about events happening in your app to the Redux store. The store then conducts the business of updating state based on the action that occurred. Writing a Redux action is as simple as declaring an object with a type property. Declare an object action and give it a property type set to the string login. Okay, so let action equal to give it a property type and set it to the string login. Just like that. That good? That all? Ah, nice. We mainly focus on C#, but Java. Whoops. But we're seeing JavaScript as well. Okay. Nice. At least you have something guided. Where I'm like trying to self-teach here and you like following a whole program. Are you enjoying it at least? Do you feel like you don't get as lost? Or there's still times where you get lost? And what is that, like a 1-year course, a 2-year course? And do you have to do other subjects like maths? I know CS does. It's not just programming. Define an action creator. After creating an action, the next step is sending the action to the Redux store so it can update its state. In Redux, you define action creators to accomplish this. An action creator is simply a JavaScript function that returns an action. In other words, action creators create objects that represent action events. Define a function named action creator that returns the action object when called. Okay. So we want a new function. Action creator return action. Is that all? Really? After creating an action, the next step is sending the action to the Redux store so it can update its state. In Redux you define action. So weird. Like, they're naming all these things in such a fancy way and using libraries like Redux, but you can literally do all of this without using a library. It's just interesting to see. The methodology or the way they describe it's confusing. But once you understand that it's literally just an object and a function, that makes it easier to understand. Because that's just an object, but earlier they were like, yeah, and it's an action and it needs to have a type. And I'm like, what is a type? What do you mean? And then it's literally just a key pair value. And based on whatever is in that value, you can do something with it. Pretty cool. No, I still got lost a lot. I learned more by looking stuff up myself. No maths, but like algorithms is a thing. 2 years. I finished in 2 months. Whoa! Insane! You've been at it for a year and 10 months already. That's awesome. And how are you feeling? Like, how's it been? You feeling like good? And I mean, yeah, I guess it's one of those things where you always be learning. You always gonna be googling something or whatever the case is. But compared to when you started, like, do you feel like you've come a really long way? Especially even just looking back a month or two, do you feel your progress, like, is steadily growing? And that should be it. Dispatch an action event. Dispatch method is what you use to dispatch actions to the Redux store. Calling store.dispatch and passing the value returned from an action creator sends an action back to the store. Recall that action creators return an object with a type property that specifies the action that has occurred. Then the method dispatches an action object to the Redux store. Based on the previous challenges example, the following lines are equivalent and both dispatch the action of type login. Store.dispatch action creator or store.dispatch type login. The Redux store in the code editor has an initialized state that's an object containing a login property currently set to false. There's also an action creator called login action, which returns an action of type login. Dispatch the login action to the Redux store by calling the dispatch method and pass in the action created by login action. So we need to do store.dispatch. Do we just call login action? I guess. Yeah, there we go. Handle an action in the store. After an action is created and dispatched, the Redux store needs to know how to respond to that action. This is the job of a reducer function. Reducers in Redux are responsible for the state modifications that take place in response to actions. A reducer takes state and action as arguments, and it always returns a new state. It is important to see that this is the only role of the reducer. It has no side effects, it never calls an API endpoint, and it never has any hidden surprises. The reducer is simply a pure function that takes state and action, then returns new state. I've improved a lot, yes, but my biggest improvement happened during internship, plus I started FCC. Okay, yeah, so like when you're actually building real things, I guess, right? It's strange how they try to teach you things and I guess it just washes over you a little bit, like you try to take it in but without anything to apply it to. Kind of just like washes over you. That's why I'm like really excited to get through these sections so I can do the projects. I feel like they teach me the global basics, but not enough to create a fully functional application. Yeah, it's like, I know what you mean. It's like a really tricky one, and some people can grasp it in different ways. But generally, just having the know-how doesn't really help. Like you need to understand why you're doing it and what the implications of, you know, this and that is. But I mean, at least you know why things happen. I just gotta know how they happen, I guess. Put 2 and 2 together. But that's awesome that you're still finding room for improvement, even after almost 2 years. I'm excited for you. Yay! In 2 months you graduate. That's gonna be awesome. Do you have any plans on what you want to do? Like where you want to go? Another key principle in Redux is that state is read-only. In other words, the reducer function must always return a new copy of state and never modify state directly. Redux does not enforce state immutability. However, you are responsible for enforcing it in the code of your reducer functions. You'll practice this in latest challenges. The code editor has the previous example as well as the start of a reducer function for you. Fill in the body of the reducer function so that if it receives an action of type login, it returns a state object with login set to true. If it receives, okay, so reducer here. So if, is it the action? Yeah, so if action is equal to login, then return hold on, what was state again? Otherwise it returns a current state, wait, returns a state object with login set to true. Wait. Returns a state object with login, okay, set to true. Right. Else, otherwise it returns a current state. So else, just return state. I assume that's what they mean by current state, the default state. Note that the current state and the dispatch action are passed to the reducer, so you can access the actions type directly with action.type. Oh, do I need a type? I can't just do action equal to login. Oh, because the action is an object, right. I need the type property on it. Good thing that they mention it. So action.type. There we go, let's see if that works. Yay! I feel like I'm not really struggling with React and Redux, which is a bit scary. I don't know why I find it scary, it's just I thought I would be struggling. Maybe all the struggling in JavaScript helped, but yeah, people told me they will be quite difficult. And we passed all of what they gave us on React, so the basics at least. It wasn't that bad. Still a bit confused why you would want to use HTML and style editing when you can just, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, anyway. Got a job offer At internship company? Whoa, look at you. So when you're done with your internship, you're gonna get the job. That's awesome. Wow. That's crazy. That's really the way to go. Have you worked with Redux yet? Use a switch statement to handle multiple actions. You can tell the Redux store how to handle multiple action types. Say you are managing user authentication in your Redux store. You want to have a state representation for when users are logged in and when they are logged out. You represent this with a single state object with the property authenticated. You also need action creators that create actions corresponding to user login and user logout, along with the action objects themselves. The code editor has a store, actions, and action creators set up for you. Pull in the reducer function to handle the multiple authentication actions. Use a JavaScript switch statement in the reducer to respond to different action events. This is a standard pattern in writing Redux reducers. Oh, switch. The switch statement should switch over action type and return the appropriate authentication state. Nope, I'm clueless about what I'm looking at. Really? Wow, okay. Because last we were doing some JavaScript stuff, and you were following with that. This is just a library. What do you think it is, like, when you look at it? Also, is it large enough that you can make it out? Like, I don't know what you're looking on, if you're on a mobile device or tablet or, you know, a desktop, but can you make out the writing? Is it like okay? Is it too small? I'm always trying to like get that right for people. Mainly because of the mobile users. But yeah, so far Redux, React is cool. So you create like modules and stuff. So you do const, let's say my module equal to, I can't remember, you extend the React component. I would have to look at the documentation again. Or you would have a function. So function, I think it was a function. Because there's two ways of initializing them. Where's the module? Why am I calling it module when it's a component? My bad. My bad. Oh yeah, it was like that. It was a class. Right, it was a class. So you'd have a class like that, which is called welcome, and it extends the React component. And then literally if you wanted to render that, it's got a render method, right? Which can use HTML tags. So it will literally return hello, and if it had a prop name, which we don't have. So we'll just do like traditional hello world. And then if you wanted to render that, you would like literally treat it as an HTML tag. So you would do welcome, and you would need to close the tag. And that would literally be how you would render a UI element, for example. So you define everything that you wanted to do in the render method, so that when you call this class, it will do whatever you have in the render method. So just think how powerful that is. You have all your logic in the render. You can have conditional statements, so you can conditionally render things. And all you do is call that tag. And you can call it like however many times you want. The state also automatically updates. It's just so powerful. And like, that's just obviously a basic thing that it does. But to obviously render the element, you had to do something like, I think it was React DOM dot render. I can't remember if it was small r or capital R, but then you also needed to give it a div to render into, an element, and then the element you want to render. But that's like literally all you would do. And then anytime that a value changes, wherever you have that UI or that element that's being rendered, it will automatically update. So you don't have to go and check the element and check if its values change and do this. Like, it literally does everything behind the scenes for you. That was so cool when I figured that out. Like, I'm excited. I can't wait to like build things with it. I really want to build an incremental game, because now more than ever it's easier to do with React. Writing is fine on mobile, but familiar with React. Front-end piece of internship project runs on React, but otherwise no idea. Okay, Redux is supposed to just, so you know about state in React. So Redux is supposed to, well, we're learning about it now, but from what we can tell, it's an easy way to update the state. I'm still trying to figure out why you want to use Redux, but the types seem to be cool here. Is this a joke? That they're showing the login and logout? Because remember that running joke? You like have your knowledge in JavaScript and React and Redux and all that, and you can do amazing things, but then they ask you to build a login form. I feel like this is a running joke. Anyway, in the reducer function over here, we need to create a switch statement. And I'm gonna have to look up the switch statement, because I haven't used that in a long time. Right, so it was that, so it's literally that. The expression that you pass in, which is going to be the... We're going to use action.type, I think. And then it's just the case. You actually write case every... Oh, you do. Interesting. So case, login, like that. And we're gonna obviously need a break. And then what do we do if it's login? It should return the appropriate authentication state. At this point, don't worry about state immutability, since it is a small and simple in this example. For each action, you can return a new object, for example, authenticated true. Also, don't forget to write a default case in your switch statement that returns the current state. Wait, authenticated true. Where does that come from now? Oh, you represent this with a single state object. Wait, what? You want to have a state representation for when users are logged in and when they are logged out. You represent this with a single state object with the property authenticated. Okay, so you want me to return authenticated true. I should probably return. This doesn't return, does it? There we go. Break, then case, log out. Return authenticated false. Break. Wait, why do we need the break though? If you have a return, I don't think you need a break, do you? What does a break do? Tell me what the break does. The break. When JavaScript reaches a break keyword, it breaks out of the switch block. Also will continue. Doesn't that technically mean that we don't need a break if we have a return? I don't think we do. It's gonna leave the function, the case anyway, right? Assumably. Then we need a default. Return default state. Do it like that. The only weird thing is, what is default state? We're just gonna return the state by itself. Let's see how we do it. Go! Why are we not getting errors? I'm confused. What is happening? Use const for action types. A common practice when working with Redux is to assign action types as read-only constants. Then reference these constants wherever they are used. You can refactor the code you're working with to write the action types as const declarations. Declare login and logout as const values and assign them to the strings login and logout respectively. Okay. Login. Login. Logout. Logout. That makes it easier. Then edit the auth reducer and the action creators to reference these constants instead of string values. Yeah, because then if we somehow change that at some point in time, you wouldn't have to worry about that. There you go. Yeah. Complains about not getting errors. Yeah, because it's strange. I want to like struggle a little bit. I think that JavaScript section really messed me up. We were like, it was common to get an error, then fix the error, then get another error, then fix the error, like one by one. So we'll start with 10 errors, then 9, then 8. Like we just worked our way down. God. I'm scarred. So when everything goes right now, I'm just like, nope, where's the errors? What's going on? Register a store listener. Is this like an event handler? Register a store listener. Another method you have access to on Redux store object is store.subscribe. Subscribe to me, guys. This allows you to subscribe listener functions to the store, which are called whenever an action is dispatched against the store. One simple use for this method is to subscribe a function to your store that simply logs a message every time an action is received and the store is updated. Why are people subscribing to our store? It's weird. How do we feel about that? This is... yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. So we need to write a callback function that increments the global variable count every time the store receives an action, and pass this function into the store.subscribe method. You think it's wrong if we make the callback function return subscribe to PewDiePie? You'll see that store.dispatch is called 3 times in a row, each time directly passing in an action object. Watch the console output the action dispatches to see the updates take place. If it doesn't say subscribe to PewDiePie, I'm gonna be sad. Okay, so callback function that increments the global variable count. Where's our store.subscribe method? Do we have one yet? We don't have that. We need to create it. Let's give it a name. Subscribe. PewDiePie. God. And what does it need to do? Increments the global variable count every time the store receives an action. Every time the store receives an action. Okay. I think we just need to do count plus equal to 1. I'm not overcomplicating that. And then we should call store.subscribe and then pass in the function we created. Oh, what? Look at that. It went to 1, 2, 3. PewDiePie has 3 subscribers now, guys. I did my part. Oh. Man, that's hilarious. Ah, so without that, they were on 0. So each time, interesting. The store.dispatch type add. So we subscribe, so each time that a change happens, we can do something with that. That's amazing. What do you think, Testis Dennis? Is it kind of like wowing you a little bit? Or do you think there's a better way you could do it in JavaScript, like pure JavaScript? Because normally you would probably have to... Yeah, I wonder how it does this behind the scenes. How do you think it does this? Because we would have to use a while loop, wouldn't we? While... Or what would you do to constantly look at a variable? You'd have to use set interval, wouldn't you? Check it every... But even that could be too slow if you set it too low. Somehow they're constantly watching a variable. And as that count increases... Making sense, yeah? That's good. Combine multiple reducers. Oh boy. When the state of your app begins to grow more complex, it may be tempting to divide state into multiple pieces. Instead, remember the first principle of Redux. All app state is held in a single state object in the store. Therefore, Redux provides reducer composition as a solution for different complex state models. You define multiple reducers to handle different pieces of your application state, then compose these reducers together into one root reducer. The root reducer is then passed into the Redux create store method. In order to let us combine multiple reducers together, Redux provides the combine reducers method. This method accepts an object as an argument, in which you define properties which associate keys to specific reducer functions. The name you give to the keys will be used by Redux as the name for the associated piece of state. Woo, that was a mouthful. I'll probably not be able to reply for while doing dishes. Cool man, no worries. Typically it is a good practice to create a reducer for each piece of application state when they are distinct or unique in some way. For example, in a note-taking app with user authentication, one reducer could handle authentication, while another handles the text and notes that the user is submitting. For such an application, we might write combine reducers method like this. Root reducer equal to redux.combine reducers Auth, authentication reducer, notes, notes reducer. Oh wow, yeah. That makes sense. That like literally makes sense now, because state can have as many items in it, but it will be a singular like object that you pass. So in this sense, a reducer usually returns a single state of an item, and combining them means we get a single object that we pass. That makes sense. That's pretty cool. Okay, let me see. I've got something that I need to call here. Is CO38. Okay. Sorry, I'm just completing this quickly. Cool. Now the keynotes will contain all of the state associated with our notes and handled by a notes reducer. This is how multiple reducers can be composed to manage more complex application state. In this example, the state held in the Redux store would then be a single object containing the auth and notes properties. I love that. I really do. There are counter reducer and auth reducer functions provided in the code editor, along with the Redux store. Finish writing the root reducer function using the redux.combine reducers method. So we need to do redux.combine reducers, and then we have auth. And we're not doing the same, are we? Assign counter reducer to a key called count. So count is going to be counter reducer, and then auth is going to be coming from auth reducer. So that should be it. And then finally Oh, okay, because it calls root reducer, so there we go. Wow! I really wish they would have us build things in between, because this is a lot of fun, but it would be even more fun if we could actually build something as we're going along. Ah, I can't wait! It's so annoying! Like, I feel like just stopping right now and like building something. Ah, the wait, it's antagonizing. But once we get done with this, then we don't have to do it again. Then we're just gonna build, 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 and build. We need to know first. Where are we? Oh yeah, we're done with that. We're front end now. The React. Oh, that was React. We're done with React. Redux. Surprisingly, not that much. And Redux is easier than React. In that, obviously, all it really does is handle objects, whereas React does a lot. So then we're going to go back to React. Wow. And then... Oh, we're going to be doing projects! Yo! Yo! If we're fast enough, we might actually be able to do a project today. I've got at least, like, 3 hours. That's exciting. Okay, that's motivation right there. Let's do it. By now you've learned how to dispatch actions to the Redux store, but so far these actions have not contained any information other than a type. You can also send specific data along with your actions. In fact, this is very common because actions usually originate from some user interaction and tend to carry some data with them. The Redux store often needs to know about this data. There's a basic notes reducer and an add note text action creator defined in the code editor. Finish the body of the add note text function so that it returns an action object. The object should include a type property with a value of add note and also a text property set to the note data that's passed into the action creator. When you call the action creator, you'll pass in specific note information that you can access for the object. Next, finish. Okay, so the first, we should probably do this first then. There's a basic. Finish the body of the add note text so that it returns an action object. Object, okay, so return action equal to, the object should include a type property with a value of add note and a text property set to the note data that's passed into the action creator. When you call the action creator, you'll pass in specific node information that you can access for the object. Okay, so that's done. Next, finish writing the switch statement in a notes reducer. You need to add a case that handles the add note text actions. So if case add note, then should return the text property on the incoming action. Action.text. It should return the text property on the incoming action as the new state. Oh, so you want me to do I have to update state? Is that what I need to do? Should return the text property incoming as the new state. Yeah, it's saying that. So state equal to Turn a text property. There isn't a text. That's the action that's being passed in. Can I pass text and then do action.text? Action is dispatched at the bottom of the code. Once you're finished, run the code and watch the console. That's all it takes to send action-specific data to the store and use it when you update your store state. I don't think it worked. We're missing something here. So the case is for add note, return, oh wait, no, it's state that needs to change. Can I do that? No, that doesn't change it either. I'm pretty sure it was text, wasn't it? And it should return the text property on the incoming action as the new state. Should update the state. Do I need to do set state now? The action creator of add text. We've already done that. Does that mean I should be setting state here? Set state. Do I have to do this dot set state? We'll find out now. Let me just double check set state, because that's React. But that's if it has a key value on it, and it doesn't have one. It just has the state itself. And why that doesn't change it if I just do that. Is notes reducer being called? It is. Redux.create store notes reducer that takes action Hold on, but where are you being called? Okay, there you go. Add text, add note text, hello. This should be triggered whenever there's an action of type add note. We've got that. And it should return the text property on the incoming action. How do you return it as a new state? Because I know I can do that. I can just do action.text. But how do I set it as the state? Because it doesn't work if I just go return state equal to action.text. Do I have to do it like that? That doesn't work either. That doesn't work. Okay, now we're struggling a little bit. Eight. Only thing is, why is it not updating state at all? Even if I said state, because if I change it there, you're going to see 0 state, so that does change. That means it's not even getting in here. Is our case wrong? Also, we should be using probably the variable. So if the case is add note, which it would be, wouldn't it? Maybe we shouldn't return if we... no. State. Because there is set state, but I think in this case we need to override it completely. Where's state now? Because if it was a class, we'd do this dot state, but it's not a class. Default, okay, hold on. Change default state. The state is literally just a string with action as type and text, add note and the note. Well, I wanted to struggle, now I've got one, huh? Did we... You know what I just realized? We've been trying to keep using state, but they said before we can just return an object, right? So what if I did text again with the actions text? It's not because it's going further, is it? Do I have to add a break? No, it's not. I got my water right here. Oh. had about half a liter of water by now. It's actually good. So what's the issue that we have here? Are we returning this correctly? This is the action. Why are we returning action? We should just be returning the type and the text. That's why. Right? No, but now we're returning an object. They said we need to update state. So maybe that was the issue that we had. So maybe now I can do return state is equal to action.text to update state. Small things. It's the small things. Okay, so I was trying to return an action object, but then I realized it takes add note as the action itself. So that is essentially the object, which has type and text. I gotta remember that. That is the action. That object is referred to as the action. What did I? Yeah. Okay, there we go. And then state is equal to action.text. Cool. Finally. Use middleware to handle asynchronous actions. So far, these challenges have avoided discussing asynchronous actions, but they are unavoidable part of web development. At some point you'll need to call asynchronous endpoints in your Redux app, so how do you handle these types of requests? Redux provides middleware designed specifically for this purpose, called Redux Thunk middleware. What? Here's a brief description how to use this with Redux. To include Redux Thunk middleware, you pass it as an argument to redux.apply middleware. This statement is then provided as a second optional parameter to the createStore function. Take a look at the bottom of the editor to see this. Then, to create an asynchronous action, you return a function in the action creator that takes dispatch as an argument. Within this function, you can dispatch actions and perform asynchronous requests. In this example, an asynchronous request is simulated with a set timeout call. It's common to dispatch an action before initiating any asynchronous behavior, so that your application state knows that some data is being requested. This state could display a loading icon, for instance. Then once you receive the data, you dispatch another action which carries the data as a payload, along with information that the action is completed. Remember that passing dispatch as a parameter to this special action creator. That we are passing dispatch as a parameter to this special action creator. This is what you'll use to dispatch your actions. You simply pass the action directly to dispatch, and the middleware takes care of the rest. Middleware. Write both dispatches in the handle async action creator. Okay, we got that. Dispatch requesting data before the set timeout. Oh. So we need to use Redux's dispatch. Interesting. Okay, so we will dispatch the action, and the action in this case is dispatch return function dispatch. Handle async is called, it's not called by anything. Go back quickly, because I've just zoned out on dispatch now. Redux dispatch. Yeah, I remember the function. Store.dispatch, but what? Write both dispatches in the handle async action creator. Dispatch requesting data. Oh. Before the set timeout. So we stored up dispatch requesting data. The simulated API call. Then after you receive the pretend data, dispatch the receive data action passing in this data. Now you know how to handle asynchronous actions in Redux. Everything else continues to behave as before. The dispatch receive data action here is store.dispatch received data. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Do we not have to do anything with the data? Then after you receive the pretend data, dispatch the receive data action. Async data reducer should be a function, which it is. Wait, is that all? Like, that simple? No, thankfully it's not. Dispatching handle async should dispatch the data request action and then dispatch the received data action after a delay. Dispatching handle async should dispatch the data request action, which we've done there, and then dispatch the received data action after a delay. Shouldn't that be afterwards, like when it's done with everything on this line? No. Weird. Data dot users. Return type, receive data, users, data dot users, which is the users there. Oh my god. These are variables. These are variables. Shouldn't that be working then? Because they're not functions. Received data, stored at dispatch. After you receive the pretend data, dispatch the received data. Oh, we need to pass in the data that we're receiving. Data. There you go. Shouldn't it be stored at dispatch? Received data action passing in this data. That's what we've done. Store.dispatch, received data. We're passing in the data. Which is the error? Is it the first one? So that was correct. So it's this one that's an issue. Weird. Why? Dispatching handle async should dispatch the data request action and then dispatch the received data action after a delay. And I can't call receive data by itself, can I? That'll be pointless, because then what do you dispatch to the store? Whole point to update state with receive data and the users. We've got, so that passes, we know that's fine. Is it because of... Oh my god. Always the small things. Always gets me every time. Was a function after all. At least we figured it out. Okay, so write a counter with Redux. Ooh, this looks nice. Now you've learned all the core principles. Of Redux. You've seen how to create actions and action creators, create a Redux store, dispatch your actions against the store, and design state updates with pure reducers. You've even seen how to manage complex state with reducer composition and handle asynchronous actions. These examples are simplistic, but these concepts are the core principles of Redux. If you understand them well, you're ready to start building your own Redux app. The next challenges cover some of the details regarding state immutability, but first, here's a review of everything you've learned so far. In this lesson, you will implement a simple counter with Redux from scratch. The basics are provided in the code editor, but you will have to fill in the details. Use the names that are provided and define inc action and deck action creators. Find an action creator for incrementing. Increment. Define a constant for increment action types. Based on the action it receives, that returns Let's have a look at actions again, just to make sure that we're on the same page. Yeah. I thought it's just of a type. So if that's true, then this should be... It needs a type, doesn't it? Type of increment. And we have to... Gonna have to see how that works out for us. And then based on what that is, we need... Okay. Provide and define inc action and... They don't give us much info, do they? The counter reducer, incrementing the action types, and finally the Redux store. Once you've finished, you should be able to dispatch incrementing actions to increment and decrement state. The Redux store should initialize with a state of 0. So state equal to 0, and then we also pass in the counter. This way we pass in the counter reducer. Need to double check. It was the previous one that we did. Was it this one? Oh no, that was in our reducer. And then we need to create the store. Create store. Yeah, counter reducer. Sorry. Not as an object. So redux.create store counter reducer, and then in our counter reducer we had to set state, and we also need the action. We needed to set state, and we need an action. Oh, so it's an arrow function. Arrow functions, right? Because everything uses arrow functions now in ES6. Okay. We initialize state to 0. And we're going to take the action. Then we're probably going to need a switch statement. Then should an increment basically be counter reducer the action? I got that right? I guess we'll find out. Then I'm thinking we have a switch here. Take action. Case of if it's increment, wrong place. Then turn. No, then we do state. We do state plus equal to 1. This was my idea basically, and then state minus equal to 1. And then we have a default, which will just return state. I think if we return, I don't need the brakes. Take the brakes off. Now I don't think that's gonna work. There's only one way to find out. We have to call getState. We can't do state, store.state. Work, right? Redux.createStoreCounterReducer. The only problem with this is increment and decrement are never called. Passing in your reducers. Oh, we would have multiple reducers. What are we missing? Realize something. We didn't set what the value is, the type. It's gonna call the reducer every time. This just needs to be a string. There we go. Now, if I do so if we call counter reducer with increment, is it because I'm returning? Shouldn't be, should it? Counter reducer once state is optional, once action. You know what I just realized here? This is the inc action. If I pass in inc action, yeah, I thought so, because we are checking action instead of action.type. We need to be checking action.type. And then inc action is an object with type increment. And this doesn't need to return. Yeah, because it's just an object set to a variable. Missing. Like I'm missing something. That is the action. Action.type. It's weird because when I remove .type, hold on. Let's do console.log action. Maybe an object, yeah. JSON.stringify. Let's see what the object is. What? Is that normal? At Redux /init initialize. Type is just increment. It should just return the variable increment, shouldn't it? That's strange. Very strange. Why is it returning that though? What is at Redux? Is that a thing? Wow, okay, that's a thing going on behind the scenes, but then why are we seeing it instead of what we expect to see, which is... It's not because I'm missing a... Yeah, it's an object. And if I add increment in, we still get the exact same thing. Also, we shouldn't do minus state -1. Do we pass as is? No, we don't. The action creator inc action should return an action object with type equal to the value of increment. We have done that. Dispatching inc action on the Redux source should increment the state by 1. Dispatching. Oh, but they're doing that probably in the background, I guess, right? Wait, so it needs to be a function? I can't remember if we wrote this or whatever. How do we turn this into a function then? You just arrow function it, right? Like that. Inc action defined. Action must be plain object. Use custom middleware for async actions. So I'm pretty sure that's action.type, not action itself. Maybe that's why we were... That's the object. But what is... Yeah, you need to dispatch inc action. Inc action is not a function. No, because it's an object. Okay, so do you want us to do... We're doing this. We return. Now it's a function that returns the object. Oh, yeah. But now we don't get to see state still. Don't worry about that action. If we do store.dispatch inc action, oh, inc, not. Oh, there we go. So every time we were to do that, it would go up. Cool. Oh, yay! And then obviously de-increment action. There we go. Okay. That's working. Ooh, that was quite tricky. Never mutate state. These final challenges describe several methods of enforcing the key principle of state immutability in Redux. Immutable state means that you never modify state directly. Instead, return a new copy of state. Okay, we were slightly guilty of that at some point in time. But we're working on that. Definitely working on that. Let me figure out. Where are we? We're here. Where are you? State is a tricky thing, isn't it? Aha! Okay. Makes better sense now. Move on to this now, which is okay. So if you took a snapshot of the state of a Redux app over time, you would see something like state 1, state 2, state 3, state 4, etc., and so on, where each state may be similar to the last, but each is a distinct piece of data. This immutability, in fact, is what provides such features as time travel debugging that you may have heard about. What? We have time travel now? That's weird. Okay. Redux does not actively enforce state immutability. In its stores or reducers, that responsibility falls on the programmer. Fortunately, JavaScript, especially ES6, provides several useful tools you can use to enforce the immutability of your state, whether it is a string, number, array, or object. Note that strings and numbers are primitive values and are immutable by nature. In other words, 3 is always 3. You cannot change the value of the number 3. An array or object, however, is mutable. In practice, your state will probably consist of an array or object, as these are useful data structures for representing many types of information. There is a store and reducer in the code editor for managing to-do items. Finish writing the add to-do case in the reducer to append a new to-do to the state. Don't mutate state here or the tests will fail. Scary stuff. So if case is add to-do, can't we just do state? Can we literally append because it's an object? Can we just do state.append? And then at the end of it, because they said append, didn't they? Action.todo. There is a store. Okay, see if you can find a way to return a new array with the item from action.todo appended to the end. Yeah, it should be return state.append. There's array.append and then action to do. Why do I have another return there? Default. And did it work? State.append. What happens if we console.log state? What is in state? Nothing is calling immutable reducer. Create a... There we go. So state is an object. No, it's an array. Wait. Type of state. It's an object. So it would be an array. It's not an array. Wait, don't I have to do state.isArray? Can I do to-dos? IsArray. Isn't that a JavaScript? Yeah, it's array.isArray. Do I have to pass in the array? Okay, there we go. Array.isArray to-dos should return true. Yep, and then if I pass in state, okay, so it is an array. Now that we know it's an array, figure out why this is not working. Append. Wait, it's not called append, is it? JavaScript array. It's called pop. Push? No, it's not push, there's another one. Is it push? It's concat. State.concat action.todo. Console.log store JSON.stringify store empty dot is empty. But we pass because of, yeah, we didn't add anything there, that's why the store would be empty because it's not called. But there we go, we concat and we're not mutating. Yay! Pretty exciting. So exciting. Okay, use the spread operator on arrays. One solution from ES6 to help enforce state immutability in Redux is the spread operator. The spread operator has a variety of applications, one of which is well suited to the previous challenge of producing a new array from an existing array. This is relatively new, but commonly used syntax. For example, if you have an array of myArray, and you write let new array equal to spread myArray, new array is now a clone of myArray. Both arrays still exist separately in memory. If you perform a mutation like newArray.push5, myArray doesn't change. The spread effectively spreads out the values in myArray into a new array. To clone an array but add additional values in the new array, you could write spread myArray and then the new value. This would return a new array composed of the values in myArray and the new string new value as the last value. The spread syntax can be used multiple times in array composition like this, but it's important to note that it only makes a shallow copy of the array. That is to say, it only provides immutable array operations for one-dimensional arrays. Use the spread operator to return a new copy of state when a to-do is added. So we need to return just that. Alright, and we need the next one, which is action.todo. There we go. Easy enough. Remove an item from an array. Time to practice removing items from an array. Oh god, it feels like we're going back to JavaScript. Without the libraries. The spread operator can be used here as well. Other useful JavaScript methods include slice and concat. The reducer and action creator were modified to remove an item from an array based on the index of the item. Finish writing the reducer so a new state array is returned with the item at the specified index removed. Okay, so return state dot slice index. Oh, action dot index. Index. What's the index defined? What is index? Remove item index. So the object should literally just be index. But index is undefined. Why? It takes action. So then how do you get index? Because you got action.type to get that value. The only problem is index is not defined. Gets past the object. Let me see something quick. Console.log json.stringify action. Oh great, we get that again. Action.type is that again, and .index is gonna give me, yeah, nothing. How do we get in? Index, you call remove item. You pass an index to remove item. That's an array. Yo, this is driving me a bit crazy. Finish writing the reducer so a new state array is returned with the item at the specific index removed. But what specific index if no index was given? That's the state. The action index. Is it not splice? I always get confused between. Reducer and action creator were modified. User, which is there, an action creator modified to remove an item from an array based on the index of the item. Finish writing the reducer so a new state array is returned with the item at the specified index removed. I guess it just would have been great if they ran it so that we can see what they're doing. Let's look at slice. I get confused. One mutates, the other one doesn't. I think slice... Does slice mutate? No, slice doesn't. So it's array.slice, in which case state.slice, and then the start. If the end is omitted, all elements from the start position and to the end of the array will be selected. That's essentially the start. So if you said 2, we need to omit it. We did this before in JavaScript. Just trying to think now. Why can't I do action.index? Because that's not going to remove it. And if I just do action index 1, because we only want to remove the... Yeah. So if we spread, right? So if I spread state, we know that slice is from the start, so it needs to be from the start. So how do we get it? Okay, so we go from the start up until the end. Thing that we want to remove, right? Then we could do another spread, because I said we could do multiple spreads. Then this time we use slice again, but we start from the index. Plus 1. And then we continue from wherever that is. So we skipped over the item that they're trying to remove. So if they passed in, let's say 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, sorry, index 3, 0, 1, 2, then we would go 0, 1, and skip 2, then go 3, 4, 5, the rest of it. Copy an object with object.assign. The last several challenges worked with arrays, but there are ways to help enforce state immutability when state is an object, too. A useful tool for handling objects is the object.assign utility. Object.assign takes a target object and source objects and maps properties from the source objects to the target object. Any matching properties are overridden by properties in the source objects. This behavior is commonly used to make shallow copies of objects by passing an empty object as the first object, followed by the objects you want to copy. Here's an example. New object equal to object.assign to that object, and then the objects you want to add to it. This creates new object as a new object which contains the properties that currently exist in object 1 and object 2. The Redux state and actions were modified to handle an object for the state. Edit the code to return a new state object for actions with type online, which sets the status property to the string online. Try to use object.assign to complete the challenge. Try as in we have to, or it's optional. It says don't mutate. Okay. Edit the code to return a new state object for actions with type online. Which set the status property to the string online. The code to return a new state object. Status property. Oh, there's our default state. So we would have to do when I copy default state. So in this case we do state, because state is an object, and then do status online. I don't know if that's gonna work. What? Oh yes, because that makes logical sense. We create the empty object, then we copy that entire object as it is, and then the only thing we change is status to online. Wow. Nice! We did it! Hey! Did it! We did it! Yes! Wow. Now we have React and Redux. Hey. This series of challenges introduces how to use Redux with React. In a React Redux app, you create a single Redux store that manages the state of your entire app. Your React components subscribe to only the pieces of data in the store that are relevant to their role. Then you dispatch actions directly from React components, which then trigger store updates. This series of challenges introduces how to use Redux with React. First, here's a review of some of the key principles of each technology. React is a view library that you provide with data. Then it renders the view in an efficient, predictable way. Redux is a state management framework that you can use to simplify the management of your application's state. Typically, in a React Redux app, you create a single Redux store that manages the state of your entire app. Your React components subscribe to only the piece of data in a store that are relevant to their role, then you dispatch actions directly from React components, which then trigger store updates. Although React components can manage their own state locally, when you have a complex app, it's generally better to keep this app state in a single location with Redux. There are exceptions when individual components may have local state specific only to them. Finally, because Redux is not designed to work with React out of the box, you need to use the React Redux package. It provides a way for you to pass Redux state and dispatch to your React components as props. Over the next few challenges, first you'll create a simple React component which allows you to input new text messages. These are added to an array that's displayed in the view. This should be a nice review of what you learned in the React lessons. Next, you'll create a Redux store and actions that manage the state of the messages array. Finally, you'll use React Redux to connect the Redux store with your component, thereby extracting the local state into the Redux store. Wow, that's quite a bit. Start with a display messages component. Add a constructor to this. Okay, so we got the class display message extends react.component. Add a constructor. Input, which is an empty string, and messages, which is an empty array. How do we do the constructor again? Missing something, aren't I? It's been a while. You usually have props as well. Are we not gonna have props? Missing super call, but it doesn't specify that I need one. Oh, does there? They just expect you to know this by now. Are these defaults, and then I still need props? And then we call
is following the family.
Hey, Ofex, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Was it complaining because I didn't have props? Yeah, it was. These had warns here. Interesting. The display messages component should have an initial state equal to input and message. Wait. Did I want state? Add a constructor to this component initial with a state. Oh. State equal to. My bad. Input. Messages. Right? Right. Think so. I hope so. Console.log input. I might have to do this dot input. Wait, no, it's state dot input. This dot state dot input. What? Put it in the render. Can I? This dot state dot input. No, we're not accessing it correctly. See what our console says. The actual working console. That will throw errors at us. There we go. This dot state is null. Okay. The state, let's just make sure state does have an object. Input set to empty. And messages nothing. But this dot state is still null. State is not defined. Anyway, let's see what happens if we try to run things. Should be called properly with super passing in props. We are doing that. Initial state is null. What is that? So it has to be initial state? Okay. We need to go back. We've forgotten that now. Oh my god, I've forgotten about that already. How could I forget? How? Why am I even doing it this way? What is wrong with me? That takes props and passes it to super. Then you have this dot state. Did I learn try and catch yet? No, I don't think so. Not yet. We learned about some of the debugging stuff, like what it does. Now if I console.log this.state.input, get an empty string, and this, if I change it to something like, here we go. Finally! Yes! Wow, Redux confused me because of the default values that you set as parameters, default parameters. Forgot about constructors. I can't believe I forgot that. Oh. Don't forget this dot state. Okay, so we initialize that to those values. Now that we've done that, we should be good. There we go. Now we need to manage state locally first. Here you'll finish creating the display messages component. The curriculum of FCC is really good. Yeah, it is so good. Like, all of my knowledge basically comes from it. I love it. First, in the render method, have the component render an input element, button element, and UL element. Okay, let's get to doing that. So, input, what else? Button, and UL. Okay, done that for now. What's next? When the input element changes, it should trigger a handle change method. Do we have a handle change method? No, we don't have it, so we're gonna have to create one. On change, was it on change? Yeah, on change, handle change. So we're gonna do that. Wasn't it? Got JSX. We need that. Now. Also, the input should render the value of input that's in a component state. So we go this.state.input value equal to. Why is the on change giving us an issue though? Anyway, we'll figure that afterwards. The button element should trigger a submit message method when it's clicked. Second, write these two methods. The handle change method should update the input with what the user is typing. How did we do that again? It's something about states change that we're doing, isn't it? And we need to take target. Isn't it target or action? It was event. We take event, right? Isn't it event.input? Do we have to return? Gonna have to go back to that lesson to get a little refresher for ourselves. Oh, it's event.target.value, that's why. Oops. Free up some RAM. Yeah. .target.value. Wasn't it something like that? This.state.input is equal to event.target.value. I'm pretty sure it would be that. I don't have to do a return, do I? We'll find out now. Input on change equal to handle change. What do I pass in here? Event? There's something that I need to pass to it. It not to render. Is it our on change? It is our on change. Why? What is wrong with our on change? And even if it had nothing in it, it's still an issue. And we obviously need that. Hold on, let's check our log. What's the issue? Handle change is not... Oh, every time. This dot handle change. Event is undefined. I pass event in. And this needs to be this dot handle change. I'm gonna have to bind them, aren't I? Will I have to bind them again? I remember. Event is undefined, doesn't it? Here you go. Okay. And then we need to update the value, don't we? The submit message. Okay, but we still can't type in this though. The reason for that is value is equal to this dot state dot input. And I don't need a this there, do I? No. I need event.target.value. This dot state dot input. That's the initial value, but I can't change it. What are we missing? We're missing something. What are we missing? It's just plus equal to. No. Ooh, I'm flagging now. What are we missing? Input on change, this dot handle change. The only thing I could think of is that it's not bound. That's the only thing I could think of. So something like this dot handle change equal to this dot handle change dot bind this. Only thing I could think of. Let's look at Firani's notes again. Super helpful. Bind. Why do I... There's no brackets, then why do I adding mine? It is this dot method equal to this dot method dot bind this, so I had it correct. Oh, where do you have it? You have it, oh, you have it inside of the constructor, that's what. That. Maybe that was the issue because it wasn't bound? It's the only thing I could think of. Nothing happens when I type. At least it's bound. When we're calling this dot handle change, we're giving it the event. Oh, because I should be using this dot set state. I keep forgetting this dot set state, and then the item, which is input. Input should be equal to event dot target dot value. There we go. Lifesaver. Okay, so now that we've got that, the submit message should concatenate the current message stored in input to the messages array in local state. Can we do that? Messages is equal to this dot state dot messages dot push. Oh no, let's do the spread method that we were taught. So the array as it is, then we're gonna add it's the input. So we want input. This dot state dot input, and then we need to clear input. Does it work in order? So if I do input afterwards, just make it blank like that, comma there. And we need to bind this dot submit message equal to this dot submit message.bind this, and then for the button on click this dot submit message. Doesn't the button have a value? Right now it's nothing. They didn't say anything. Like no name for the button. We're just gonna name it. That's weird that they forgot that. Add item. And then the only way to know if this works is here. We need to display for each one, map over the array of messages and render it to the screen as a list of list item elements. We did this yesterday. What did we use? Was it literally map? I think it was. So this dot state dot messages dot map message then we need to return list item message like that. Testing. Oopsie. It did it for is that because of this? Yeah, that was why. Okay, that won't work. Messages needs to be... Oh, it's supposed to be messages. That's the one that's spread. And then this dot state dot input. So testing... Okay, but now we don't add it. Oh, this dot state dot messages. Testing. Item 3. Yeah, that seems to work. It's so cool. I think we passed. We did indeed. That was quite a tough one. Whew. Extract state logic to Redux. Oh no, I thought we were going to continue with that. Extract state logic to Redux. Now that you finished the React component, you need to move the logic it's performing locally in its state into Redux. This is the first step to connect the simple React app to Redux. The only functionality your app has is to add new messages from the user to an unordered list. The example is simple in order to demonstrate how React and Redux works together. First, define an action type add. So const add equal to add, right? Then define an action creator add message, which creates the action to add a message. We need to pass a message to this action creator and include the message in the returned action. So we need type add, right? Why is that an issue? We have to call function add message. That's probably why. Would help. But now what is the message? You need to pass a message to this action creator. I think it's like this. It needs a type key, type add, message, then the message that you can add, right? I assume. And then we need a reducer. How does that work again? This is like advanced stuff, jeez. So we need a state and action. Virani also has this on Redux. Initial state should equal an empty array. Initial state this reducer should add a message to the array of messages held in state, or return the current state. So would we have a switch, and then if case action action.type, and if case is add, then we need to, what do we do with message? Add a message to the array of messages held in state. Oh, right. State.concat, action.message maybe? And then default is just going to be return state. Then we need a Redux store. We can do state.concat, or we can use the spread operator. I think I like the spread operator better. We just did state, right? Yeah. And then we just get action.message. Because array? No? Why? Why is action.state an issue? Oh. It would have to be something like this. But even then, no. I think we're gonna have to use concat. See what it does. And then creating the store. redux.store, redux.createStore, and then we pass in the reducer. Let's see what we get for now. State is not defined. Oh, you have to okay. But then well, then it has to be that then. What do we get now? How do we dispatch? State isn't empty an array. So I just realized this arrow function's being used there. How is Virani not getting an error then? Oh, because he doesn't use function. That's why. Did he set that to a constant? Yeah, he did. Message reducer equal to state, there you go. Just want to figure out what happens when we're adding. Okay. Up with the return again. When am I gonna learn that? I need to do that. Or do I? No, because it's a function, add message. And I just realized I should probably stop doing functions and use arrow functions. Oh, but that's if I defined it as... So another way of doing this would be add message equal to, like that. Then I don't need a return. Because you got type. Type add. This should take in message. Shouldn't that be the message you pass on? Right? Include the message in the returned action. Oh, struggle. What part? We need type. Alright. That's for sure. Do I need the return? Because it seems to error out if I don't. Then since it needs message, this will probably have to be a short form like message. What have we got so far? Okay. Why not? Just works when I'm still trying to test it. So state.concat action.message. And that works nicely. There we go. Use provider to connect Redux to React. That's what Virani was doing here. Provider, there it is. In the last challenge you created a Redux store to handle the messages array and create an action for adding new messages. The next step is to provide React access to the Redux store and the actions it needs to dispatch updates. React Redux provides its React Redux package to help accomplish these tasks. React Redux provides a small API with two key features, Provider and Connect. Another challenge covers Connect. The provider is a wrapper component from React Redux that wraps your React app. This wrapper then allows you to access the Redux store and dispatch functions throughout your component tree. Provider takes two props, the Redux store and the child components of your app. Defining the provider for an app component might look like this. Provider store equal to then the store. App provider. The code editor now shows all your Redux and React code from the past several challenges. No, it doesn't. I said MSG, but I see that's how you can do it. Oh, would that if you do message like that, will it just be message is equal to message? Will it have the property of message? Interesting. The code editor, yep. It includes the Redux store, actions, and the display messages component. The only new piece is the app wrapper component at the bottom. Use this top level component. Wait, Redux code, React code? What? Use this top level component to render the provider from React Redux. So provider, store, Redux store as a prop. Is it not provider? Ronnie! Hey! I've been checking your notes out. How's Redux? Fun. But I got confused when we came back to React. And I started writing out Redux stuff and so I have to pass the Redux source prop, then render the display messages component as a child. Display messages as a child. What is your problem? What's the problem? Unexpected token. Yeah, that's an opening tag. Oopsie. I didn't close it. Store issue. What the hell? Provider? You're just glitching out now because you feel like it. Que basta. Yeah. So interesting. What is problem? You want me to reset? Nope, still an issue. Virani, look at this. Look at this. This is called handle click, right? This is handle click with a capital CL. How did you pass? You're awful. You want to trip everyone up by getting errors that they won't know how to solve because it's... Oh no! Yes, Virani, oh no, you should feel bad. My notes are BS now. How are we gonna manage, Virani? How are we gonna pass, Virani? This is unacceptable. Hold on. So what is the issue here? I'm rendering display messages, rendering provider, passing store as the prop. So you can access the provider with dot notation. The code in the editor takes advantage of this and sets it to a constant provider for you to use in the app wrapper render method. You're just writing some component inside of your class? I need to render it. Oh, you mean like actually render with a render method? Like that, right? And then I need to return, open and close like those, and then inside of that... Wait, was it like that? Don't I have those? The Virani notes, please help. Alright, the return comes first. Wait. Yeah, I was right. It is render, and then... not as a component. Oh, hey. The error stopped. Render. Because we didn't have a render method. Hey, look! Type in a new message. Pasta. Look, Virani. My beautiful code from earlier. Now it's rendering. Was that it? What was the whole point of that? So that we have one place for state. So if I access store, store would be redux.create store message reducer. But we're not using store anywhere else. Our entire thing is not using store, it's still using local states. I guess that's the next part where we're gonna make it use local states. Now everything inside has access to your store. Usually you put app there. Right. And all apps children have access, yeah. Now anything has access anyway. I'm gonna have to build like lots of projects to try and figure out these things. I really hope the projects are good for this section. I really hope so. We can only hope, right? Okay, so I should have passed that. Yay. Map state to props. The provider component allows you to provide state and dispatch to your React components, but you must specify exactly what state and actions you want. This way you make sure that each component only has access to the state it needs. You accomplish this by creating two functions, map state to props and map dispatch to props. In these functions you declare what pieces of state you want to have access to and which action creators you need to be able to dispatch. Once these functions are in place, you'll see how to use the React Redux connect method to connect them to your components in another challenge. Behind the scenes, React Redux uses the store.subscribe method to implement map state to props. Create a function map state to props. So when they say create a function, Virani, I'm always used to doing function and then, you know, blah blah blah. But a lot of the times in React, apparently you want to do everything in variables. So is that correct? And then I just create it as a arrow function. Am I? What? Oh, hold on. Equal to. I don't know. I just see it happening a lot, so I don't know which one's right. Getting confused on that. This function should take state as an argument. So state as an argument. Then return an object which maps that state to specific property names. Those properties will become accessible to... What? You can pass that entire state to your component. Create a property messages in the objects that's being returned and set it to state. So return messages state. That all? Please tell me that's all. Are we done? Oh my god, I did it. What? What? I did it. Yo. Yo, 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 yo. That was fast. That was lightning. That was amazing. Wow. Map dispatch to props. The map dispatch to props function is used to provide specific action creators to your React components so they can dispatch actions against the Redux store. It's similar in structure to the map state to props function you wrote in the last challenge. It returns an object that maps dispatch actions to property names, which become component props. However, instead of returning a piece of state, each property returns a function that calls dispatch with an action creator and any relevant action data. You have access to the dispatch because it's passed into map dispatch to props as a parameter when you define the function, just like you pass state to map state to props. Behind the scenes, React Redux is using Redux's store.dispatch to conduct these dispatches with map dispatch to props. This is similar to how it uses store.subscribe for components that are mapped to state. For example, you have a login user action creator that takes a username as an action payload. The object returned from map dispatch to props for this action creator would look something like login user function username dispatch login user username. Okay, so we create a function. It is a function that then calls dispatch, which then stores login username as username, which is passed in as the property, or the argument in that case. That's pretty cool, because then you know exactly which one it is, where login username is, for which username. The code editor provides an action creator called addMessage. Write the function map dispatch to props that takes dispatch as an argument. Then returns an object. The object should have a property, submit new message, set to the dispatch function, which takes a parameter for the new message to add when it dispatches. Only problem now is if we call dispatch, so that should be dispatch. Which takes a parameter for the new message to add when it dispatches addMessage. Should I just put message? Because message isn't defined, yeah. That's what I need to return. Pretty sure, but I can't dispatch dispatch. Oh, this should be function dispatch, which should then return Should it return? Yeah, I don't know. I've been up for 12 hours coding and studying, so by this point, I'm just gonna have to go. I'll try to get past this one, but then I'm done for the day. That takes dispatch. It's an argument, then returns an object. The object should have a property set to the dispatch function. I'm in a mush state already, yeah. I've been in a mush state slowly for the past hour. But what do I put in here as the parameter? Like a message? Or whatever? Because then I would dispatch. The fuck? Dispatch what? What am I calling? Add message. Add message. Message. Hey, look at me! Literally just blind went through that one. Look at us go. Oh wow. Wow. It's over 9,000! Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do this. Like, just look at this, I'm just like, boop! There's my brain. There goes my Brian. I can't do this anymore. I've reached my limit for the day. I need to go and reset. But I think we made good progress. We completed React yesterday. That was great. Then we completed Redux today, which is great. And we're almost done with React and Redux. Just 4 more to go. And then we got the projects. Building a random quote machine. All these things. And I won't be using JavaScript. Well, pure JavaScript. That's gonna be fun. Then I can finally see how these things work together and interact. Because right now I've just been playing with 1 or 2 values, which is a little bit confusing. And you don't get like the relevance of them. So that's gonna be fun. A lot of fun. I can't wait. This shouldn't like turn me to mush in the morning. I should be able to do these relatively easy. And then I'll be able to do like, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2, depending on how it goes. Because I want to implement some kind of API to get random quotes. That was my idea. Or scrape a page. Otherwise I could just give it an array. We'll see. Maybe for the test case, in case something goes wrong, API goes down and then you have nothing to show. I think I'd rather just get a collection set of quotes and then add that to array. That way you know it will always work. But yeah, Virani, thanks for dropping by. I hope your day went well. I hope work went well. I need to go before the FSB come. And I'm a bit earlier today, so which is good for you, so you don't like stay up late and I keep you from your sleep. You didn't work today? You're doing some home stuff? Okay. Well, I hope that went well. I hope everything is good your side. And thank you for your notes. They're awesome. They're really awesome. They helped me today, actually. As you can see, I already had them open. So the stuff on React is really good. You know, one thing I was trying to figure out is why just the hierarchy of React it doesn't make sense. Like, why would you have your CSS in there when you could just have your CSS in a separate file that's not even completely related? I could get if it's supposed to be for dynamic and whatnot. Ah, shit. I'll be right back. I just spilled some coffee. Give me a second. I need to clean this up. But type out your response so that I can read it. But I'll be right back. Coffee and me, not a good mix. I'm back. Hey. Sorry. No, so I wasn't meaning in your example. I mean, they've shown it. Where you could do inline styles and you can, like, add styles and everything. And I'm like, why? Why would you do it like that? Let's say you have a container, like, you still need a husk of a HTML file, right? So you can, like, basically make your layout there and then append to those things. So why would you do it all in one? Like, is React supposed to be, you have your HTML, CSS and everything all in one if you wanted to? So you have like a single file that does everything? That just made me think, why? Why would we do it that way? Obviously I would still need to see and work with examples to see how it would be useful. But I was like, damn, imagine converting my log formatter to be all in one file. The CSS in there, because apparently you can declare it and you set the variables up, you set style inline. React is all about small modules, yeah, I've seen that. Ah. So you create an ID of app. So you render it and you know where. .div. Get element by ID app, yeah. Otherwise app was basically empty now. Thinky in React, yeah. I'm worried that I'm drifting away into a library that does things a very specific way when I could be focusing more on pure JavaScript and coming up with my own methods. Because how do you innovate if you're just following, you know, a set line of libraries or whatever if you're learning? Because all this will do is I'll learn React, learn React best practices, you know what I mean? It's all React, React, React. But where am I actually going to learn JavaScript, you know? Oh, you can do this, oh, you can do that. You know what I mean? Come up with new ideas to do this and that. Yeah, but what I mean is sometimes it's good to do that in order to learn. How else do you learn? Like, imagine the amount of experience these people who created React had in order of doing it. Like, just think about that. I wouldn't say using JavaScript in that you're calling functions and methods that were created in JavaScript that you have no idea how they work because you never see them unless you went under the hood, you know what I mean? And what I would be trying to achieve, the main thing would be studying. That's what my philosophy has always been. What I want to achieve is fully understand JavaScript in every aspect before I use frameworks. Like, imagine I had to use jQuery. How much I would lose out on learning because of how simplified it makes things, like getting elements. First I, did the initial thing, which was horrible, and then I made it a bit better by using helper functions. I would never have learned to do that if I didn't try first. What I mean by completely understand is that any solution that I need, I can do it without having the use or need for a library. So that when I do use a library, it's not because I don't know of another way, it's because I accept that it's more efficient or easier to implement. That makes sense. You understand how the libraries work, that's pretty much enough. And if you know several ways of doing something, it's good. Yeah. What I mean is you're relying on something. Let's say the library didn't get updated. Obviously more used libraries get updated. Never an issue, but there are other lesser known libraries that you might use for a specific use. What if it didn't get updated? And then you're stuck trying to figure out how this thing works, relying on something You know what I mean? That's why I feel it's better to first understand how something works. We're using something else to achieve the solution. It's like a duct tape solution. That is the most important dev quality nowadays? What is? Ability to adapt and learn quickly, yeah. Seems they made a little bit of a mess trying to combine React and Redux. Wondering if someone will make a uniform approach, or if React will adopt that. That's more streamlined. I never thought about that in that sense, the whole state management thing. But I guess I also understand why they did it. It sticks to one thing, it does one thing, it's not trying to do too many things at once. I know how that gets. Modular is best, definitely is. Yeah, where would you use Redux outside of React? Like, what else has state? Well, I mean, technically you could use state in anything, it's not a React specific thing, it's just an object, right? That allows you to check for something. Oh, you don't need Redux? Why? How does that work? The latest React. Depends on your use, I guess, again. Yeah. I heard of Angular, yeah, and Vue. I'm sure I'll get there eventually. Yeah, thanks Verone for your notes. They make things a whole lot easier to understand. Combination with these things. We're only four modules away. And was it the project? Yeah, then it's the projects. Then I'll finally be able to see how these things work. I can't wait for that. First one's a quotes. They call it a quotes machine? I don't think. Did they? It is a random quote machine. Yeah, I'm gonna be off now. But and I'm exhausted. Up 12 hours studying, streaming for the past 3.5 hours. What a day! Wow. Sounds like you had a day as well. Hope you managed to relax and rest. Tomorrow's a new day. Give it our all. And thanks to everyone else that came by and the new followers. Yay! You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.